Hi, everybody. I'm Tess, and I'm a compulsive overeater, and I'm abstinent today. I weigh and measure 3 meals a day from the gray sheet, write them down, commit them to my sponsor or another qualified person, and I don't eat in between my meals, no matter what. I'm abstinent by the grace of God and the support of the gray sheet community. And my abstinence date, as I already said, is September the 14th, 1998. And I'm kind of scared, but it's so beautiful to be with you all. Somebody told me if you're scared, it just means God's shaking the truth out of you. So I hope that will be the case. And if it doesn't help anybody, it'll help me to remember. I have a friend who says, if you can't remember the miracle, remember the misery. So I'm going to tell you what it used to be like, what happened, and what it's like now to the best of my ability. I never remember a time when food wasn't a pretty big deal to me. I know some people my disease certainly progressed over the years, but I do believe that I was born with the allergy to sugar, grains, starch, and carbohydrates. And that when I ingest those substances, it sets up a craving for more of the same and a mental obsession. And I had that even as a little kid, but it wasn't the insane, demoralizing, degrading. It wasn't to the point that would later be what I hope is my bottom. I remember, I want to say this one thing. My family was just as messed up as anybody's, but I was loved, and I knew I was loved, and I'm still a compulsive overeater. So I really do have the physical allergy. Now, I witnessed some crazy stuff with food. If you could get it by osmosis, I'm sure it could have been soaked into my little body. But I was always jonesing for more sugar. You give this little girl a sugar item, and I was begging, borrowing, manipulating to get another one. I remember playing outside with my cousin and her friend, and the mom gave us all a sugar item. And I ate that sugar item, and I wanted another one. And I remember just saying, don't you want to ask your mom for another one? And I remember trading food at school and begging my little next door guy, hey, I'll trade you this if you give me that sugar item. And I just was relentless, and he would actually give in. I can't imagine. But on and on I went. Now, my grandfather at his heaviest was over 300 pounds. My mother weighed about 85 during my formative years, and we lived with my grandparents until I was 8. I remember, our basement, it wasn't a torture chamber, but it could have been. But we had an exercise bike. We had some contraption my papa would get in. I think it was like a portable sauna. It might have sweated your weight off. And we had this belt. You could stand on this machine, and it was supposed to shake your weight off. Good luck with that. It never worked for me. And my grandma's idea of rolling a rolling pin over your abdomen to help the fat go away didn't work for me. All my best efforts did not work. And I went on and on. The manifestation didn't show as a kid, and it was happy until it was hell. Okay? So it didn't really show. And yet I had the low self-esteem of the addict. I really felt like I pooched out where other girls were flat, and I was flat where other girls pooched out. And I think I knew I had a food thing. So even though it wasn't showing on my body, I knew something was off with me. And by the time I was a tween, it did show. I started trying to control my food at about age 8 or 9, though. I would bring my lunch thinking I could lose weight. I carried around this pamphlet that my step grandma had that counted carbohydrates. This is after my mom got married. And then I started, as the years went on, to count all kinds of things. And I'm very bad at math, but I could add up calories, fat grams, carbohydrates on notebooks, spare scrap pages. I had it going on. In fifth grade, I remember eating 1,000 calories or 1,200, and it was all sugar. That's what I did. That was me. Way back in the day, they called it pigging out at slumber parties, but other people could do other things, and I just wanted more. And so by the time I got to high school, I was fat, and I tried Diet Center. P.S. I also thought I was a big bad sinner because I was involved. I heard there were 7 deadly sins and that gluttony was one of them. So I thought I was a pretty bad girl. Eating was a moral issue to me. So I get in high school. My parents, who were hardworking, spent a lot of money over the years for me to lose weight, only for me to gain it back plus baggage. I lived in a small town. We had moved a couple of times by then, and I did Diet Center, and I was successful, and I got a lot of positive attention. Diet Center put my picture in the paper. And by the end of the year, my picture was in the paper for something else, for being a senior. And I remember when I was 17 years old, I had a girdle on because I was so ashamed to be gaining weight in front of people. Onward I go, fighting and losing. When I was a kid, I remembered that my grandma, who was a professional dieter, would take laxatives on a diet. She thought it just got you good and cleaned out. Now, my grandma was just in general a good dieter. I never saw her abuse laxatives. If she needed a diet, she did it. We did our log rolls and jumping jacks to Jack LaLanne, and all was well with her. She could eat like a lady. Not me. It was never my story. But I think I thought note to self with those laxatives. I went into acting in college, and I got a lot of flack for being fat. There are more fat actors now, but there weren't when I came up. And by the time I got to grad school, I was told if you don't lose weight, you'll be playing teddy bears your whole life. And essentially that was true. I was an actor early on. I played the fat, happy girl next door. No ingenue roles for this girl. And it stunted my growth in all areas. I didn't have the normal sexuality. I was the fat, happy friend of the pretty girl. Oh, everybody loves Tess, the girl with the friendliest smile. And I was always breaking inside. I went to an outpatient eating disorders. I had taken laxatives, blood started coming out. I go to this eating disorders clinic. They told me some valuable information. Diets don't work. But they told me I could eat anything in moderation. Lie, doesn't work for this compulsive overeater. They said, oh, go to that fast food store, just eat normally. And you know what? I knew intuitively that was not going to work for me. I knew nothing about Grey Sheet, but I knew that wasn't going to work, and it didn't. They said, you're eating too much diet food. I'm like, that's the only hope. I would eat a feast and have a diet soda. I mean, I knew, but anyway, on and on I go. I got out of that eating disorders unit, outpatient eating disorders unit. That's how I got there. was through the blood. In grad school, they told me if you don't lose weight, you could be kicked out. So I really was trying, and I was really failing. I got out of school, and I finally, after many years, lost a substantial amount of weight by counting fat grams and exercising to beat the band. But yet again, per usual, I was gaining it back on diet food. I found my way into OA. I think I first heard about it on the Phil Donahue show, 5 Minutes, who was an early talk show host. But I found my way in there, and they told me I had a disease, not a moral issue. That was a big deal to me because I had tremendous shame, tremendous. I knew I couldn't figure out my abstinence. I prayed to my higher power. Help me not to eat too much or too little. I didn't know what it was. No one would tell me. Finally, I got a therapist who was also in OA. She said 3 meals a day, nothing in between, no obvious sugar. I did that. I was reading a book called Love Yourself Thin. I was trying to love myself thin, be just happy being big. Didn't work. So I knew once I lost weight in OA, and I did, I was craving the whole time. I thought, this dam's gonna burst. I can't keep it up. The vegetables were making me crave. The things, other things that might be healthy for other people were making me crave. And I didn't know it. But when I got my driver's license in Missouri, I told them 10 pounds heavier than I was. And the dam did burst. And I ate like I've never eaten. I ate until I couldn't stand up straight, lay flat, until I was feverish, had heart palpitations. It was pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization. I don't just need to lose 10 pounds for the prom. I've got a disease that's out to kill me every day. I crawled into GreySheet. Long story short, I saw abstinent, beautiful people. I couldn't imagine doing what they did because I couldn't even do my OA abstinence. I had heard about the 12 steps. I heard about steps 4 and 9. I thought that's only for the brave people. I'm not brave. I pretty much thought I was trash. But when I had no place to go, I came to the last house on the block. They said, we don't eat no matter what. They glowed. They said the biggest and the best, the greasiest and the gooeyest. We eat like queens. They took the shame right out of there. They took the moralizing right out of there. You can love your food. I was so fragile in the beginning, but I remember telling my mom, I think this is different. P.S. My mother later told me she thought I was going to die in my disease. So 20 years later, a day at a time, I have a life beyond my wildest dreams because I don't eat no matter what. I'm a worker among workers, a family member among family members. Did I get the guy, the dog, the white picket fence? No. But I do have a life beyond my wildest dreams because I'm not face first in the food 1 minute. I'm not going from one haunt to another, binging, getting rid of wrappers, not living my life. I have a normal, average bozo on the bus life, and that is a miracle for this compulsive overeater. I don't do it alone. I do it with all of you. I barely do it sometimes, but I do it. I was told that if I do nothing but put my food on a scale and sleep in between, I'm a smashing success. So like you all, for this day, I am a smashing success. Thanks for listening. I pass.